To the regular meeting of the Lakeport City Council for Tuesday, May 19th, 2015. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Turner. Present. Councilmember Matina. Here. Councilmember Parlett.
Here.
Councilmember Spellman. Councilmember Shield.
Present.
Mayor Shield.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'll let the record show that Councilmember Stillman is not with us this evening. Pro Tem, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I will.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming this evening. For those of you wishing to speak publicly, you may do so on any of our agenda items tonight. I do ask that you please wait till we are taking up that particular item, and I will open it up for public comment. For those of you that would like to publicly comment on any item that's not on the agenda, but it's under the jurisdiction of the Lakeport City Council, you may do so during open public comment. We do ask that you fill out a comment form. They're on the table as you enter council chambers, and please hand that to our clerk. Please understand that we cannot come to a consensus for taking action that's on an item that is not posted on the agenda. So with that, we have an urgency item this evening. We'll be taking up to add to the agenda, and this is regarding the Wood and Glory Picnic in the Park event. And this item came up following the posting of the current agenda, and it must be acted on prior to our next council meeting. So with that, do council members have any questions or comments or anything from staff?
So do we just need to make a motion to accept the agenda with the addition of this
You need to
event?
make a motion to add it to the
And
agenda.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a suggested motion, and then if someone would like to say so. But I would like to open this up to the public. Does anyone have any comment on this item, urgency item that we will be taking up to add to tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, I will bring it back to council. And the suggested motion would be to add addendum number 1, the Wood and Glory Picnic and the Park event, to the agenda as it came up following the posting of the agenda and must be acted on prior to the next council meeting.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Anything further from council? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. With that being said, we will have acceptance of the agenda as amended.
I'll make a motion to accept the amended agenda.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And we will take that up following the consent agenda. On the consent agenda this evening, we have waiving reading except by title of any ordinances under consideration. We have the warrant register from May 17th, 2015, the minutes from the regular city council meeting of May 5th, 2015, receive and file the illegal fireworks police operation plan, and approve application 2015-009. This is from the Lakeport Main Street Association regarding the shipwreck days for Saturday, October 7th, 2015. Any of those items that council wishes to pull for discussion?
It's 17.
17, excuse me. Seeing none, would anyone from the public like to comment on any of the consent items this evening? Please come on up and please state your name for the record, and if you would like it spelled correctly, please write it down on the sheet.
Oh, of course. My name is Barbara Brunig, and I am Main Street Association's president. And we do have an amendment. I think we have decided that we will not have any wine or alcohol during the shipwreck days. It seems like I don't feel that we really make any money on it, and it takes a couple of people away from other things that are more important down there than making $100 on something. So we will take that away, so I don't know. And here's my captain, right?
I'm the first mate.
Oh, excuse me, first mate.
Captain is Pierre back
Oh,
there.
okay. Is there anything you would like to say? Make it short, Suzanne. Our good.
Done. Okay, the posters are out. We're already in setting sail, so I'm hoping that everything goes smoothly.
Okay. And David, as there's going to be an amendment to that one particular item, do we need to pull it?
That's certainly an option. we can approve it with the alcohol and beer, and then
And
if
they
they
can
don't,
choose.
if they choose not to do that, that's fine, it's within the scope of the
Barbara,
application.
would that be acceptable?
That would be fine, fine. Do you want anything, a report from Main Street now, or would you like me to come back later?
We would actually have to have that on an agenda item, because then we can actually discuss it.
She's supposed
She
to do a
can bring it back.
presentation from the.
Oh, absolutely.
From the.
As citizen input.
Yeah, let's do it at citizen input, so that way we can get through the consent agenda.
Okay, so you like it now or later?
Stay right there, stay right there.
Okay.
Anyone
I
else?
want to get the camera.
Anyone else from the public like to discuss any of the consent agenda items? I'm seeing that, I'll bring it back to council. Anything else from council? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Anything further? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Public presentations and
You
public...
have an addendum to the,
Oh, that's right, we have the agenda. One second.
I could take back what we said about the liquor. I didn't say anything.
That's all right. So we have the event application for Wood and Glory Picnic in the Park. Anything from council or questions from staff? All right. City manager.
Borrow mine if you want.
Just for the public's knowledge, the only thing that we're adding on that addendum is to allow the car club to use Park Street between 3rd and 2nd Street. So that will be closed during the event.
This is for the
Wood and Glory event.
Wood and Glory event. I also have, since we closed from 2nd to 3rd, I was going to also put the spiders there. The three-wheel motorcycles. I've got a group of them coming because they wanted to have, Wood and Glory really wanted to show, you know, a fun time. So I figured, well, let's have those, more things for people to look at and do. So they will be there on 2nd and 3rd.
Absolutely.
Okay, and we will have beer and wine there. And we will have a flag down there, won't we? So we could have the flag, salute to the flag. Should we?
There's a pole there.
Do you think before we started that it might be a nice idea to do that, salute the flag and say the Pledge of Allegiance?
We can put a flag in there's
The mast.
the mast.
Yeah.
That might kind of be nice to start it with. Okay.
Absolutely.
Now do you want me to leave or stay?
No, you need to stay. Anyone else from the public regarding the Wood and Glory addendum to tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council for any further discussion or motion.
Make a motion to approve the event.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, Barbara.
Well, I apologize to the mayor and to the council that we have not been forthcoming in letting you know what we were doing, so I apologize. I'd like to thank Doug for getting the flower baskets up, and we are going to put a little container underneath attached to them so that the water will not drip down on the sidewalk, so we do not hear from our citizens that are concerned citizens about things. So we are going to do that, and I think there was a couple of flower baskets that I saw some water dripping on today, so that will be addressed. Cleanup day went awesome, and we want to thank Myra Turner for taking help, everything you did. So Paula thanks you, we thank you. Okay, we are getting ready for, what are we getting ready for? Taste of Lakeport. We're getting all set for that. We are ready for the dedication. What else have we done? Paula, what am I missing here? We're going to have more people than ever been thanks to the San Francisco Examiner, because they really, I think a lot of people read it, and they're going to come to Lake County, and we've got the water, and so I think we're happy. So within a month, you will have an annual report from Main Street Association letting you know everything that we have been doing and that we are on top of things. And I think that's it. Yes, Margaret?
I was just making a comment. Do you want to tell everybody that the baskets this year, you guys put in new emitters that only use half the water to plant for the water the new flower basket?
Yes, because we did have a problem, and we knew that perhaps we'd have a problem, so we wanted to address it, and that's what, I think it's Tom out at the nursery suggested, and he did. So, a little extra expense, but it's
So,
worth it.
we
So,
appreciate that, especially in this time.
yeah, any other questions that perhaps you might have? Okay,
All right, thank you very much, Barbara.
thank you.
Mhm. Madam Clerk, any public comment? All right, with that, if no one else from the public would have anything else to say during open public comment, seeing none, we'll move on to council business. Under item A, city manager, item number 1, contract for the summer concert series. Margaret?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For the past, since 1989, we have had the Lakeport Concerts in the Park, hosted by Bicoastal Media. The city receives $100 for each concert, so it's $1,000 a year. It's 10 concerts they put on. And this year, we had the city attorney review the contract, because the previous MOU had been updated by the new city attorney to include information related to risk management issues that haven't been addressed in the past. So that's why you're seeing a new contract with Bicoastal Media. The concert promoter recently requested that they be allowed to have food vendors in the park, which actually was kind of a mutual. We kind of discussed it together about possibly having food in the park. They like to control the vendors, so it's going to be up to them, the number of vendors and how that process does. They will work with city staff to make sure that they have all the health permits and the necessary business license to be selling in the park. Both the promoter and city staff are not requesting that there should be any alcohol sales. People are allowed to bring their own alcohol during the concert in the park, but both the promoter and staff doesn't believe address alcohol sales. And the other issue was there have been several complaints in the past from citizens regarding dogs in the park during those concerts. The park gets really crowded, and there's small children and sometimes some big dogs going on. So the park rules do say that your dog has to be controlled either by leash or by electric collar or something. But staff would like council to take a look at that and appreciate some direction on how you might want to address that in the future, maybe just during the concerts in the park. And I think 4th of July is going to be another big issue, especially with the fireworks, because the dogs do go kind of crazy with those sounds. But and the concert in the park, because there's so many people there in the park. So staff is recommending to move forward with the contract as presented. Alan Matthews from Bicoastal Media is in the audience if you have any questions from him. And take any questions from council.
Council members?
Did you have any thoughts on the dogs? Were you thinking about banning them during the concerts?
Well, at staff level, we talked about it and thought concert in the park, it's really crowded to have dogs, and I've seen dogs with next to little kids' heads, this age. And then the dogs fight with them. I don't know of any dog bites or dog aggressive, biting anyone, but it was more of a precaution for future incidents.
It seems to be it's the dog versus dog issue,
Yeah.
which
Yes.
spills over into the public because everybody's so closely seated. And I think that's the danger, because then if there is a kid involved, it's by, sheer accident.
Right.
They can get bit or scratched. And
The last one I know about, I don't recall any issues where somebody's actually been attacked. But the last one I recall the issue was the dogs fighting, which spilled over other people in there. So,
Yeah.
so we have
Alan, maybe you come up just for a sec.
While Alan's coming up, the one thing that has been abundantly aware to me is that people are very passionate about certain things. Horses, I found that out as a big surprise when we had that meeting. And another one, I think some people don't have children and their dog is their child, and they think that child or dog / dog is one of the most important and well-mannered thing in the world. And I would really feel that could be an issue if we deny dogs in there. But then putting them together just creates the arena for them to battle. But, you know, Alan, having said that, maybe you've been doing this for a very long time. I've been down there with you numerous times. What do you think about it?
Margaret, it's one less thing to deal with there, which is always good. Brad would have to enforce that rule, so it's one more thing for him to deal with. To Kenny's point, there's one couple that's close to our pop-up every week that has a dog that just lays there and does nothing, so it'd be tough to tell them they couldn't be there, but there may be, you know, it's kind of, where do you go with it? It's, excuse me, I really don't have a feeling on it one way or the other. If the council wants to do it, we'll try to help enforce it. We announce that prior to the concert, no smoking, dogs must be on a leash, all of those things. So I really don't have a feeling on it one way or the other too much. To speak a little bit about the food vendors, we're going to keep that very small. And it's going to be Main Street type of businesses. So it would be like Cheesy's Pizza, it would be like the hot dog guy. We're not going to bring in trailers with generators that interrupt the music, any of those type of things. So that's why we wanted to control it, so we could keep it very small. If it's a service organization, I plan on reaching out to service organizations that want to come down maybe and do something like that, and they can raise some funds for the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, whatever it might be. So that's maybe some input to you for the food portion of it. Margaret, who has been very helpful through this process, we talked about how some people just have jobs by the time they get there. A piece of pizza or a hot dog is something that they need. So we're all for that part of it. We've talked about maybe charging a fee to some of the vendors that come back there and returning that fee to the city. That we really don't care to make any money off that. We just want the event to be strong and have the people to have diversity of food or whatever. So we haven't really crossed that bridge yet.
Back to the dog thing. I think that the key is controlling your dog. Maybe, you know, we could go and give it a whirl. We've addressed it. We've kind of talked about it. Maybe Paul or whoever happens to be at the microphone just would let people know that we would love to continue to have dogs here, and maybe do like a little disclaimer at the beginning saying that we would love to continue to have dogs here, but if there's a problem, there's some concerns with certain citizens that dogs might be a hazard to the public safety. And so if you can control your dogs, we'll probably be able to continue having dogs here at the concert, you know, ad infinitum. But if there do continue to be problems, then we may have to have that.
For the greater good.
Sure. So I don't know, that's just a thought.
Yeah, we do a whole stage presentation notes so that because we have sponsors in there that we promised to mention so many times. So we have it pretty well scripted. We can just add that to the script saying, hey, the ball's kind of in our court to act like adults and control your pets. If we don't do that, then the alternative is maybe we have to ban the pets. So something like that.
And I love the idea of the food, small.
Yeah.
Not something that's going to, you know, impact Main Street businesses, but might, you know, enhance them, give an opportunity to showcase or whatever.
Yeah, and certainly with music there, you don't want generators, you don't want people yelling and hollering. The event's been great for forever, and we don't want to change it much. It's just that way back in the late 80s when this all started, the city of Lakeport had the rules of no retail activity in the park. So that's why Margaret and I that we had to approach the council to waive that so that there could be retail. We don't allow any of our sponsors to do any retail activity in the park. They can come down and give out flyers, give out swag, whatever they want to do, but they can't sell anything in the park. So that would be the only change.
I love the idea of having the food. There's so many people that would come down if they knew they could grab a bite to eat. So I think that would be a great enhancement.
And you're right, Stacy. We picked up on that because the hot dog guy technically couldn't come down to Park Street. He had to be right up there at the bottom of 2nd Street. But you'd see people walking over there saying, well, what are we doing here? Why don't we just make it better for everybody involved?
And just to give you a heads up, I recently ate at that new, I don't know the name of it, the little rice bowl place. Holy Bowl. She was talking about doing some sort of picnic basket meal. They just do lunch, but she was talking about doing something for concert. So maybe she would want to.
I'll approach her. Yeah, I've heard very good things. Yeah. So, but we want to keep it Lakeport event. We don't want to bring vendors in from Ukiah or wherever. We want to take care of it. And the Main Street Association, with a co-op operation with businesses that are on Main Street, is a major sponsor of the event. So we're not obviously going to go away from those people.
Well, lastly, the idea that I think some people don't realize that NCC Radio goes through a lot of trouble to get and recruit sponsors and bring in and all this work, and for someone to come waltzing up there and think that they have the right to take advantage of 800 to 1,500 or 2,000 people, I think it falls completely under your right to refuse to manage that. So I think it's appropriate that you have the final say on it.
Yeah, and as the contract shows, we had to designate the picnic tables because we had issues there with people, to Kenny's point, that, hey, there's 1,500 people here, I'm going to come down and sell my wares. Well, that's not fair to the sponsors that have paid to support the event that aren't allowed to sell anything. So, with the help of the city, it's been a great event, and we look forward to it going for a long time.
Staff has had a great working relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the partnership's been awesome. I mean, 26 years. I mean, it's one of the most popular events in Lake County.
Yeah, Brad's staff is great. We all seem to work. We try to help him. He helps us. My staff is instructed to keep walking the park. If they have some issues, then they contact the right people or try to address. Probably the biggest thing that we address there is the actual glass containers in the park and say, hey, alcohol is okay, but glass is not. And most people are pretty good about it. They'll keep it by their chair. And
Paul does a good job too on the microphone.
He does.
Make sure that the announcements are made, and so people hear. So there's no, I didn't know. Yeah,
exactly.
you
And
guys are
smoking's
doing-
another one that we try to approach as well. It's like, be kind to your neighbors, don't smoke, pick up the trash, take care of it's your park, take care of it. It's that simple.
Well, food, I think, is a great idea, and I think Councilmember Parlett, is on the right direction with the dogs, and I think we can, find something to work that out. And I'm confident, by Coastal Media, you guys have done this for such a long time that you'll help us make the right decision too. So.
Anything we can do, we're happy to. We love the event. It's close to our heart. Obviously, we do it every year. So,
All right. Thanks, Alan.
any other questions?
Thanks.
Thanks.
Anyone from the public have any comments or questions? Please comment up.
I'm so sorry, Barbara Brunig. One comment, and thank you, God, that we do have the concerts in the park because the people love it. Another problem with the dogs is that there's so many service dogs today and so many dogs that an older couple, it's their whole life, like Kenny said. And it's hard to distinguish, is it a service dog? Is it really important to these people's lives? Or, are they just telling us that? So I really think, as long as they reinforce that they have to be on a leash and in your control. You can't do that with kids, but we could with the dog. I apologize. One really important thing, since there's nothing to do in Lakeport or Lake County, Saturday, the 30th, this coming Saturday, we are going to dedicate the 3 lamp posts that are by the savings bank. There's 2 that are for the savings bank, and 1 is for Audrey Seiler. So we're going to do this at 3 o'clock. It should be but about 45 minutes, and we would love to have anybody in attendance that would like to be there. So thank you, and I'm sorry I forgot it.
That's all right. Thanks, Mark. Anyone else from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to council. Suggest motion or further discussion?
I just want to say I don't see any point in giving Chief more work on the dogs right now than just see how it goes.
I agree that, as we do other things in the city, complaint-driven, if it's something that somebody's getting unruly and, they haven't listened to their neighbors, that if it has to escalate to that level, then it can be dealt with. But yeah, it would be a nightmare just to...
Well, it'd be nice to think we're dog-friendly. We're not Carmel, but at least we can try and hang in there and make it work. I brought my dog down last year. I was afraid for his safety, so I won't bring him back, but I'm sure other people would really like to bring him. So.
I was just going to comment, if there's a dog that's a problem, we have ways of dealing with that right now, so.
Sure.
How we deal with it is still going to be the same. So we don't necessarily need a rule to deal with a problem.
Okay.
I think
Right now, there's ways to deal with it.
I think the important thing is that in all communications with city inhabitants, that we're at least responsive and that we've addressed it and that we're concerned about it and we're not blowing anybody off. I think that's the important thing because there's a lot of people that really love their animals more than they love maybe their spouses or their kids. So I think this is the right one.
Anything else?
I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between Bi-Coastal Media LLC and the City of Lakeport for summer concert series.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. If there's nothing further from council, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you. I'd like to add one more thing, just because the Main Street Association is here in force with Barbara, and Barbara and Paula do a great job. I'm also treasurer of the Main Street Association, so that report will be included in all that.
Okay, thank you. Next under council business, also from our city manager, is contract for annual fireworks display.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the Pyro Spectacular has been providing the fireworks show on 4th of July here for many, many years. I believe it's been over 25 years that they've been in charge of the fireworks. And I believe it was in 2011, I can't remember, 2011, when we had the, it didn't go right, the finale came in the middle of the show at the end. They actually were very kind. I think they gave us about a 50% discount on that year. And then they lowered our rate for a few years. And now, they did that for 2012, 13, and 14. And now they're saying that they need to raise the prices back to the cost where it was in 2010 and 11. So the rates, the show will be the same as what we discussed with them. And the chamber, I haven't talked to Melissa, but I'm assuming they're going to still be doing the add $1 campaign at Bruno's Market. And the Main Street Association last year donated some money, so we'll be working with them to see if that's going to happen. But anyway, the cost of the fireworks would be $17,300 for this coming year.
Any questions from council?
I think we really should work on setting it up with sponsors. So there's 3 main sponsors that do, $5,000, and that we have to think of ways to make it worth it for them to do that. And whatever advertising and things that go on for 4th of July. But it seems like that would be something, some community businesses would want to take on.
I could agree with that, but the other thing that I do think is a great thing is that having been intimately involved with the chamber, being president a couple times, I'm really glad that the city has seen fit to take on this burden with our larger budget than the chamber that used to do this and then try and collect money. Now they're collecting money and they're giving it to us, and I think that's a good thing. But I think it's really great that the city's stepping up and taking this on, because to them, $16,000 or $15,000 budget item is a very large item for them to deal with. And so I think it's great that the city does this, and I don't think there's any question that we get a good return on our investment. But I love your idea of getting sponsors. I don't know about, we could get maybe a dozen $1,000 sponsors, but I don't know how many $5,000 sponsors are out there, but there could be some.
Now, I agree, we need to think about how we can promote the sponsors.
To make it worth it for them.
I just noticed that on the agreement at the end where the price firm section, it expired on the 15th. Are we still okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Wow. Good eye.
Thank you, yeah. No, I told them I wouldn't be bringing it to council tonight, so.
She read it.
We have a check ready for them to have if council approves it, so they can get it paid right away.
Great.
Anyone from the public? Come on up. If you need a
I'm so
chair, you just want
sorry.
to bring a chair and just let it sit right next to the podium.
No, I have my Fitbit and a bed sheet.
Oh, that's what's going on.
Yeah, see, oh wait, I don't know. Only 42.92, so I got to do a lot of stuff here. 2 things. One thing I forgot to mention on the 4th of July, for Main Street is we're going to get a letter together, and Paula's going to take it around to the businesses in Lakeport for anybody that would like to be a vendor at the 4th of July, because I have had an individual that has kind of complained about it a lot, that we're taking money away from him. And so I thought, well, maybe that's one way to just stop it, and then he won't get on us for that. And that's not why I came up here, but I thought I'd tell you that.
It'd be really nice to take a bucket with you too, a donation bucket.
Oh,
So if those new
you really
vendors,
think he'd like that?
those new vendors want to come down there.
I kind of think what we did with Bruno's, I think 5,000, Stacy, and we contribute a lot to a lot of things. I think it might be a little bit too much for most of your people to handle. But no, I'm just making a mention. But the dollar, at $1, I think we need to get the chamber to get more businesses involved, that we could put it up on our counters and outside. And I bet you we could bring in an extra couple of thousand by your merchants doing that.
Absolutely.
Because we're asking the public, they're the ones that love it also, and they get in their boats and see that fireworks, they go ooh and ah. So they can drop in an extra $1 or $2 when they have a sale, and we could add that to it. So I think we better, maybe that would help.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say no more tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council people. You can just count on that. Take it to the bank.
Well, you just probably signed yourself up for some extra volunteering, it sounds like, too. So as the
I do it
champion of the new,
anyway.
a $1 extra.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I have to compliment a number of the local businesses and their staff asking for money at the register for charities that are hundreds, if not thousands of miles from Lake County. And being a supporter of LFRC and hospice and chamber and people services, it honestly galls me that they say, would you like to donate $1 to, whoever, the Cancer Society in Schenectady, New York, or St. Jude's, or whatever it is. Okay, that's great. We're one of the smallest counties in the state of California. If they did that same thing, said, would you like to add $1 to the Lake County fireworks on your order here, and everybody did it with the same diligence that they do right now, and they do a magnificent job under the direction of Kmart or whoever they are. They do a very, very good job. And I don't understand why we need to send money to Memphis, Tennessee, or all these other places in such quantity when we have problems here in Lake County. I would like to see LFRC and People Services and Hospice and some of these local organizations at SPCA get that money instead of sending it off. And they do such a good job. Why not ask to support, one of those local organizations for the fireworks? And that's my kind of on the podium thing today.
All right. Well said.
Sorry.
That's all right. Anyone else in the public want to follow that?
Right on, Kenny.
All right, seeing nothing, I'll bring it back to council for further discussion or the suggested motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Pyro Spectaculars North Incorporated and authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything further from council? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Margaret. Next up, under item B, our Public Works Director, the no parking zone and Bevins Street. Mr. Brannigan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Before you right now is an issue that came about because of its success, which is nice. Out there off of Bevins, we've got added traffic, and the businesses are doing very well. And as a result of that, in particular, one business, very successful, especially in the opening, spilled out into the streets. And we received numerous complaints of near misses with people parking in the street and people trying to get around with a narrow roadway. So staff went out, put temporary no parking to curtail the on-street parking, and to remedy that, we would like to post permanent no parking signs. So to do that, we need to amend the resolution and include in that resolution a strip on Bevins, which would start from Lakeport Boulevard and go down to about where there's an entrance behind the Business Point Shopping Center, which is driveway approach there. That would be a no parking zone that we can enforce and remove those temporary barricades.
I kept meaning to call you on this, because I
Right.
watched it, yeah.
Did you?
Oh, yeah, pretty crazy out there.
Well, the action was quick. I mean, it was evident very quickly that
Yeah.
it had to happen. So, I mean, you guys getting the temporary stuff out there was definitely needed to happen. And, you know, it's a corner too, a curve, and it's just waiting for somebody to walk out from behind a car and
Yeah.
somebody not see it. It's not going to go well, so. Anything else?
Are you sure that you can do this for $250?
In-house, yeah, we make our own signs.
Great, because that seems like a really good deal.
Did you check the first time to make sure that the decimal wasn't like, is that 250, not 25? That's awesome.
That's the joys of doing sign making in-house.
Yeah, and I appreciate that very much. Saving us a lot of money. Thank you.
Anything else from council?
No, I think the barriers, the temporary barriers were very helpful. That I drive that way every day to work, so it seems pretty clear. That's too easy for even a car door to be left open while somebody's fumbling and somebody else goes right down that hill. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone from the public have any comment?
Barbara?
Regarding this item?
Mark, whatever you want, we should do. Oh, here comes our public.
Suzanne.
John Q. We need to get her some new clothes.
I just had a question, and I probably read it wrong because I'm not good at reading on screen. But so this is all those streets that were in the packet. Those are already ones that are already no parking. So this is just adding that to those.
Yes.
Okay. Thank
What
you.
we end up doing is rescinding the prior resolution, so
And-
there's no confusion. So anything that was the prior resolution gets added to the new resolution plus the new street.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Anyone else? Questions, comments? All right, I'll bring it back to council for action.
I'm finished. I'm going to leave now if that's all right. I won't bother you anymore tonight. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, Barbara, you too. Thanks for coming out tonight.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the proposed resolution rescinding resolution number 2473, 2013, and designating the locations of prohibited parking zones within the city of Lakeport.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything further from council? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, next item, also with Mr. Brannigan, is our solid waste contract.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're at this point here, long in coming to this point. A little history. The state of California has required a 50% diversion or reduction of its landfills. As a result, the city passed a resolution and entered into contract to have mandatory service and had a Lakeport disposal on that contract. And it was as part of that contract, there's an extension, a 5-year extension. And it was in 2012, March 2012, where Lakeport Disposal came to the city and said, we'd like to exercise that 5-year extension. As a result of that, we brought it to the Solid Waste Committee, and we went through a myriad of issues that pertain to that contract, for which we came to the conclusion that getting a new contract would be in the best interest, and a lot of work and effort, time and energy went into developing a contract that we thought would be fair to the citizens of Lakeport as well as Lakeport disposal. So what we have here is a contract that's been in the makings for over 3 years since their request. We brought this overview of this contract to the council in March, went through the highlights as to what the contract is. There's 2 changes that were made since the March presentation. Listed here in the staff report, one was a Christmas tree collection. During that presentation, we were looking at having curbside pickup, but also having a dumpster at the Lakeport Fire Department station. And since then, instead of having the dumpster provided at the fire station, they are adding a third pickup upon request. So the analogy there is if they're getting curbside pickup, only people that would be basically using the dumpster would be people outside the city. So, it made perfect sense. So that was one change that was made. And also there was a change about the container replacement. The contract originally had 12 months. That was extended to 24 months to where if there's a stolen, broken container that within 24 months of receiving a new container that you would get it free. Or within 24 months, there would be a cost. After 24 months, it'd be free. So I've had these things for years, and they do wear out after many, many years, but I think this is a reasonable time frame. So there was just those two changes. We have in here a breakdown of what the costs are going to be. I believe it's section C for the contract. There is no rate increase as to date, but we are asking for a Prop 218 authorization for staff to go forward and begin initiating Prop 218, which would require us to send out notice explaining what is being asked and the procedure to also protest it. So with that in place, if the council chooses to accept the contract or make motions to amend it however you would like, then the next phase would be to begin the 218 process and develop that language and get it ready to be sent out.
Thanks, Mark. Questions from council?
So Mark, let's say that, I know that they have an extremely high approval rating, but let's say that somebody had a discussion, just for edification, they had a question about the rates, and so they could protest, is that what you're saying, and then bring it to you, and then you would bring it to council, say that they're complaining that the rate's too high, and then where does that put
The
us?
Prop 218, in that Prop 218, there'll be explicit directions on what you can do to protest. But it does have to be in writing. It has to be in writing. It can't be verbal.
It can't be arbitrary.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
that's-
there has to be public hearings as well.
Right, yeah.
So
It'll be
come to
handled
the
just like
council.
a water and sewer rate increase.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just know that a lot of work has been spent by fellow council members and the mayor to get this going, and I hate to see somebody, one out of 3,000 or 4,000, 5,000 people come in and they have a axe to grind or something could hold up this process any further. I would hate to see that.
It has to be 51%.
Oh, so you have to have
Yeah.
51%. I think we're okay.
And we do have Lakeport disposal representatives here if you have questions about it.
Pro Tem?
I'm so excited. We've been working on this for over 2 years, so, and it's a really clean, good contract, especially compared to what we had. And it's great that we're keeping a local family business as our company, so happy.
I'm surprised Joe didn't bring down a bunch of grandchildren too, just to make the cheese more binding.
We're going to save that after 218.
Councilmember Turner?
Again, I wanted to thank staff, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem for all the effort that went into completely bringing this contract up to date. It's great, and I also am glad that we're retaining the local businesses. They do a consistently good job. I did have a question about the Christmas tree third date of curbside pickup. I was wondering if those dates are actually solid, because I'm one who consistently uses that dumpster in the fire station, but be it either because it's laziness or busy, or maybe I just like to really maximize the effect that I get of my Christmas tree. I don't throw it away within the first 3 weeks. I wait till it starts like shedding, and then I think, okay, then it's time to take it down. But so I was wondering if maybe if that third day is negotiable, if maybe the people who are the later dumpster people like me might still be able to, it doesn't come out right, but would still be able to do a pickup date a little bit later instead of all being finished within the first 3 weeks after Christmas.
Well, that'd be a question for Lakeport disposal.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
I'd like to just say one thing, that it is important that we define so that they can plan
This is a cost to them. And maybe we look at pushing the 3-week pickup out a week or something.
Well, Mark, if she wanted to hang on to it, she's probably not the one. Can't they cut it up, put it in their
That's true.
yardways?
Yeah.
That would just be a choice. If you really want to hang on to it, then chop it up and put it in your thing.
Yeah, it'll fit your
Condo,
yardway.
so do I need to buy a saw to chop up my tree to put it in?
How public work, Lance?
Stick to the timeline.
Yes.
We'll buy you a saw. My name's Lance Butcher, I'm with Lakeport Disposal. And to answer the question, the third day is sort of, it's definitely got some leeway into it. I think we can go far to, the January month. And like Stacy said, great idea. You can always use your yard waste container. But in a situation like yours, where you live in a condo, you don't have yard waste accessible to you. But like I said, that third pickup can be negotiated on January, unless you plan to keep it through February, then you might call the fire chief. There might be some issues at that point, so anyway, it's negotiable. And, the reason why we did that was just basically to stop the outside dumping, because there was really just no control. And there was no control of what they were throwing in there too. We usually had one person throwing ornaments and all. I don't think it was a good Christmas for them, but,
It was their last Christmas.
Probably, yeah. The kids were gone, moved out, but this gives us more control to make sure the yard waste is clean, so when we take it to our facility, we're not gonna have no issues with it.
And Lance, isn't there in the contract you get once a year, you get a bulk pickup? So you could use that bulk pickup for
If
that.
you did go into the
too,
month of
if you wanted
February, you could always use your bulky item to
Yeah.
pay for it, so, and it has been done before
Yeah.
too, so.
to. And that's any day you want.
I'm comfortable
Doesn't
with you using, deciding upon all the variables that are necessary and when is the best dates for you. So then my second question would be for staff, if maybe we could send out a notification like public outreach that this is different for all the tree
That's
dumpster
part of
people.
the
that-
contract.
Good, okay,
Yeah, that'll be part of our website information going out.
Good.
And also,
We'll be sharing the education with.
yeah.
that'd be great.
Yeah,
And then-
we're working on right now, trying to make the two websites link together so they can be working together, so
Okay,
all questions should be able to be answered.
good. Then people who live in like higher density housing might be able to post that on their calendar, so we all know that this is a pickup date. And then we, wouldn't have stragglers.
So we will be doing a Christmas tree sale after January, so in case you guys.
Thanks.
The thing that occurs to me is that traveling the Rodman Slough area over and over, day after day, it's not unusual to see Christmas trees out there March, April, May that have been lingering, and I would be really interested to see just how much more we will see now that dumpster will not be available for people outside the city limits that may have dragged it in because they thought, oh, I can get rid of it, and they wanted to do the right thing, and now maybe whatever the solid waste company is for the county, maybe they need to be as prudent as Lakeport is. It might be a problem getting rid of that dumpster.
We'll contact Bruce.
Thank you.
Let him know about that.
That's what I was getting at.
Any other questions for Mark? Okay. Anyone from the public have any comments or questions regarding the Lakeport disposal item? Anything else from the Butcher family, Lance? Come on.
Okay, you need to clarify.
Craig Butcher, Lakeport Disposal. I just want to thank all the hard work that the city staff, the solid waste task force has put into this contract. It's been a busy 3 years. And the contract looks really good. It's a good-looking contract, and looking forward to working with the city with you guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
Great,
Greg.
appreciate it. Mr. Brangan, appears to be something else.
Well, just to make sure we have clarification in the contract for language on Christmas tree, how should the wording be? Right now it's a third day after Christmas. Should we say?
You can go third day into the month of January. Third pickup into the month of January, on call the office for scheduled pickup.
Okay. So in addition, I think adding.
Same as the bulky item work.
Bulky item.
Okay.
So it would be their choice of what day on that third time?
No, it would be their choice when they choose to call through the month of January. But we do bulky item pickups on a certain day of the week, so we'd schedule it for that day and have the customer have the tree at the curb.
So if it's a bulky item, then we don't need to address it here, because is there a one-time bulky item pickup?
Yeah, then they could use their bulky item pickup, and then they could get rid of some additional stuff.
Well,
Well, no, I think
Yeah,
the
what-
tree can be handled the same way. I think for the communication issue is that it's not call and they're going to come out and grab it. It's call and you will be scheduled up until your normal third pickup, and then they will come out on a specific day because they're going to do multiple of them. They're going to try to obviously maximize the trip, and they're going to tell the customer that the tree will need to be out on this day.
yeah, and we don't want to take away from the customer's bulky item.
Right.
Too. So, no, like I said, I think we could just make that third pickup through the month of January. I think that's ample time to get the tree out there and set
Yeah.
away.
And to be clear, the third one is a requested pickup.
Request.
So you would call Lakeport Disposal,
Lakeport Disposal
Correct.
to schedule a pickup day.
and then you will get instructions from Lakeport
We'll tell
Disposal.
them the day that they were doing that. So.
So do we need to clarify the verbiage on that paragraph?
We do.
Yeah.
What paragraph is it?
It is 4.09, paragraph C.
So Christmas trees will be collected on both the first and second collection days after Christmas Day. In addition, on an as-needed and requested basis, Christmas trees will also be collected on the third collection day after Christmas Day. Trees must be placed at the curbside on the customer's regular collection day. Information regarding Christmas tree service will be posted on the contractor's website. So what do we need to add?
I think that sounds right.
Doesn't that
I
cover
don't
it?
think that's a
It-
problem.
Okay.
That only provides for a collection on the third collection day, and that was what Councilmember Turner was questioning, whether or not we could
Oh,
just
So,
work
customer.
with the
so
fifth
instead of third
day.
collection day, it would say the month of January.
Right.
Yeah.
What occurs to me is that how many people have their trees removed between the 25th and the 1st of January? It seems to me that most people are, just so burnt out from Christmas, they don't want to think about tearing the tree down until January. I would think that the collection days should be the first, second, third week of January, be done with it, and then you wouldn't have an issue, because I don't think that many people want to get it out of there on the 27th or the day after Christmas, because, my God, they got to pick up all the wrapping paper and all that stuff. They're busy.
And we're right there at that point, the 25th. So you're right. A lot of people are, but you'd be surprised that a lot of people are there that day after
Yeah.
Christmas.
The ones that don't live at Lakeport.
Correct. That'll be a Robin Sloop.
I think by changing the verbiage to the month of January, I think we would pick everybody up at that point. If you're going to wait that long, then,
So in
sorry,
that-
you're going to have to burn your bulk item because you really need your business.
So if
Or
you're
the fire department's going to come down.
Also, too, the yard-based container is available. Not everybody has that option, but I think we're hitting a large percentage of the.
I never use mine, you can just come over and use mine.
I might just buy a saw.
There's always fake trees too. I promote
Okay,
those.
so the sentence, in addition, on an as-needed and requested basis, Christmas trees will also be collected through January by request.
Month of January by request.
That's the easiest way to do it.
And that's not too open for you, because that means anytime during the month of January, somebody can request it on their collection date, which actually kind of adds 4.
It wouldn't be on the collection day, it would be on a day that we schedule for pickup.
Okay.
They use a different
Okay.
vehicle.
So that would work out okay with
We're
you.
using automated trucks for the carts, and with this type of bulky pickup, we'll be using the rear loaders. Old
Okay.
school, doing it the old fashioned way, exactly. And I like also taking a chance to thank the council for working with us and the solid waste committee. It has definitely been a long road, but a well-traveled road, and I think we've all come a long ways, and this is a good contract, and I look forward to going forward, so thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else from the public? Anything else, Mark, you think you have? Come on up, Joe.
My name is Joe Butcher, and I'm the president of Lakeport Disposal. These are my two boys here. We started this company in 1964, so we've had a good run at this, and Kitty Parlett was over at the Purity Market over here.
Over here.
16 years old, over there, back of us. But it's been a good run with the city, and we thank you for the contract. We've negotiated for 3 years almost. So we've had our ups and downs, but we've come to the conclusion this is a good contract. We want to thank you and help us serve the city of Lakeport. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, anyone else from the public? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council. I would just like to reiterate that multiple staff groups, as well as council members, did a lot of work on this, and I would applaud them. And it was a lot of work and coming up with, contract ideas that work for the citizens of Lakeport, that work for Lakeport Disposal. And then, of course, we had to put it all into the legalese. And David Ruderman, our city attorney, really has work cut out for him, and his firm, to make sure that the citizens of Lakeport are protected and also that Lakeport Disposal is protected. So I think what we created is a fair and equitable contract that is good for the citizens, for the city of Lakeport, and for Lakeport Disposal. And I'm extremely happy that we get to continue to have a partnership with one of our local businesses, as we have done since 1964. And that's pretty incredible. It doesn't happen very often. So with that, anything further from the council?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed solid waste agreement with Lakeport Disposal, authorize the city manager to sign the contract, and authorize staff to begin the Proposition 218 process. Do I need to make a note of our change?
Yes, as amended per,
So authorize the city manager to sign the contract as amended, and authorize staff to begin the Proposition 218 process.
Yep. We have a motion.
Second.
We can both say.
We have a motion and a second. Anything further from council? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And thank you again. Yes, and thank you very much to the Butcher family for coming out tonight as well. Appreciate that. A little party. The kids will come out during the 218 process.
Thank you.
All right, next, from our finance director, this is restructuring the unfunded accrued actuarial liability obligations of the city to CalPERS. Thank you, Mr. Finance Director.
Say it faster.
Yeah, say that 10 times. You all, we can just call it you all.
You all. There we have it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. In our ongoing effort to continue to find ways of reducing costs to the city, and identifying ways of saving money and planning for the future, well, we identified, with the help of financial advisor that we brought on, an opportunity to do just that in terms of the obligations that the city is facing related to its pensions. A few months ago, we got word from CalPERS that they're going to engage in a restructuring of their entire portfolio as far as what they pay out for pensioners and retirees, and how they're going to collect and charge participating agencies for that. They're still recovering from the fall of 2008 when they lost a considerable amount of their investment portfolio. And they've tried multiple ways of recouping those losses, as well as mitigating or lessening the effect to the participating agencies, and what they typically refer to as smoothing out, or something of that nature, where they can try to return to a fully funded status without impacting city, county, special districts, and other governmental entities along the lines too much. For whatever reason, they came to the conclusion that a restructuring of the entire program, as far as how participating agencies participate and contribute, was necessary to really get them on a more stable path toward that end, and decided to collapse a number of risk pools into one or two or fewer risk pools, and then redistribute that risk among the participating agencies, and also redistribute the obligation to each agency depending on a bunch of factors that go into what is our obligation as a city towards our retirees. All that complicated, weird stuff really boils down to, we used to have a set amount of obligation that we had to pay off to PERS, and that number got a lot bigger in a hurry. And we decided that we need to try to attack it, given that we're in a favorable interest rate environment, and try to do something to plan for the future in a way that would be better than what PERS is proposing in some parts to us. So again, with the help of our financial advisor who's here, I'm going to use a few of his slides that he prepared when he presented to us some recommendations. It's not a slideshow per se, I just want to keep this up there to give the council an understanding of what we're trying to do, what our proposal is, what our recommendation is, and where we're going. Backtracking a little bit, we used to have what was called an unfunded or a side fund with PERS. And the way our pensions work is it's somewhat straightforward. The city kicks in a little bit of money, and the employee kicks a little bit of money into PERS every month, every time they get paid. And then PERS does something with it. It invests that money, and then promises a pension to the employee when they retire. Because the markets had some loss years past, and because we modified our plans over the last 15 years or so, those little changes changed the way or the amounts that we need to contribute to CalPERS to continue to offer the retirement benefit. And instead of just changing the annual rate that we pay to CalPERS, they said, well, we're going to establish these little side funds. There are amounts owed to PERS for past market losses, changes to plans, that you're going to pay off over time, in addition to the ongoing costs that you're incurring every day as your employees build their retirement account, so on and so forth. That amount was about $2 million as of about 6 months ago. $2 million that we're still trying to pay off to catch us up, if you will, so that in the future, everything we contribute to PERS is just to cover the cost of what we're incurring in that moment. When PERS decided to take all these different risk pools, and we were part of a large risk pool, but it was meant for small agencies, and take these different risk pools and combine them into one or two, and then redistribute the risk and the obligation to each. The $2 million side fund that we were paying off diligently every year ballooned to $7 million, over $7 million. So PERS came to us and said, pay us off $7 million. We're going to give you a little bit more time to do it, and then gave us an amortization schedule of what it would look like, which included, as you see here, a lot of peaks and valleys that we really don't want to have to deal with, in the sense that it makes it difficult for us to budget for something like this. So we said, okay, financial advisor, give us some recommendations on what we might be able to do, not only to help us manage this, but maybe to help realize some cost savings in the long run. So they came back to us and said, well, we have the opportunity in this environment, with rates being what they are, to possibly refinance or restructure some of this obligation that you owe to PERS at today's rates, and to help realize both what we're calling budget smoothing, flattening out this graph here, as well as realize some present value cost savings over the term of the refinance. So we like to do things in kind of the Goldilocks fashion. We want three options. One might not be really attractive, one might be, and the other might be just completely off target. But our advisor provided us that information to give us three options and showed us what it might look like if we employed one of these options to help smooth out these obligations annually, and then if we could realize any cost savings as a result of that as well. And they did that, and they provided us three, and we're recommending, not necessarily recommend any one in particular, we want the council to kind of deliberate this, but we feel that the three options that were given to us are good options, options that we should consider, and we recommend the council choose one and allow us to start the process moving forward. Again, what this chart here represents, and I'll see if I can make it a little bit larger. This chart here represents what our annual payments would have been, or scheduled to be, with CalPERS if we do nothing. There's not a dramatic difference next year to what we paid this year to retire our side fund and make our ongoing regular contributions first. But every year after, until about 2020, we're going to see about $50,000 to $60,000 increase annually on what we're paying now, in addition to any changes that we make or that PERS makes down the road, or any kind of losses they may have if the market turns on them again. Creating this peak, which will be about $300,000 difference from this point today, that we have to somehow prepare for and budget for. And we have a sharp drop off, and then it begins to build again. This is the amortization that PERS gave us. So we said that's too difficult to deal with. What it means is that we have to find ways of cutting, and we have this big gap where, okay, do we restore services or what? And we felt that's not a prudent way of managing our resources. It's not good for the community, it's not good for the organization. And so our financial advisor said, well, there's a way to smooth that out. Here are 3 options to do so. And the secondary goal of realizing some cost savings is also there too. If I can advance this up here. So here's the same bar graph, but we are juxtaposing the smoothing effect that we're looking for the next 25, 30 years. We have 3 options. One is to take just what used to be our old side fund of $2 million and just restructure that at a lower interest rate, and then deal with the remaining $5.4 million based on the amortization schedule PERS provided us. That's one option. Second option is to take a little bit bigger bite of the apple and restructure that and stretch it out a ways to help us gain some smoothing, some budgetary smoothing, and some present value cost savings. And then the third option is to just take as large a bite as we think is reasonable and try to realize the same budgetary smoothing as well as a little bit more cost savings, projected cost savings, present value wise. So we liked what we saw from our advisor. They made the recommendation we should seriously consider one of these options. We had 2 council members involved in this process to kind of vet it a little bit prior to coming to council. I want to thank Councilman Spillman and Parlett for that. And we kind of walked through these options and walked through some other ancillary issues that came up as we discussed these. And what we're really here recommending, proposing today is that the council consider these, vet them here with us, and then hopefully give us staff authorization to move forward and try to put together a deal that will achieve what we're trying to do here today. Are there any questions so far? There's a lot of things going on here at once. I'm trying to keep it as cogent as possible. I think it would be a good time to maybe do some questions and answers.
The one thing, having sat through this whole orchestration twice, Dan does a very good job of it, if you can understand some of the rudimentary concepts of the whole thing, what even a pension obligation POB is and all that kind of stuff. But what occurred to me as a business person was that we have 2 big things that I think as council members that we need to be concerned with. Not the least of which is the budget smoothing. The amount of savings that we get is almost a secondary benefit, but the budget smoothing is something that could create crisis in different departments and things that we would have to cut services. And then when we come back, I mean, it might almost be a good idea for us to leave office and come back in 8 years when everything's better. But that's not how we can run a city and turn our back on our citizens. So I think that the idea is the budget smoothing, and both Councilmember Spillman and I both agreed on that. What it came down to is the fact that the unfunded liability that we have that went from 1.9 to 7.3 million dollars is being assessed at 7.5%. And any of those in real estate would love to be able to, say that, well, I'm not offering you 7.5, I'll give you 5. Well, that isn't really great either, but we're looking at maybe getting down as low as 4.69 on a 9-year term. And our cost savings over and above paying off the side fund only is like a 500% better deal. And we're looking at saving upwards of $12,000 a year every year including the cost of all the different $120,000 that we have to pay to get this all to happen. But that $12,000 will be occurring for 25 years and totaling upwards of $300,000 in savings. And that's if and when things don't get better for PERS and they just maintain kind of the status quo. But I felt that and Councilmember Spillman agreed, he was looking at the one that was at 7.89%, and I think if you go to the slide that shows summary considerations, it shows pay off the side fund, and 25%, pay off the side fund, and 50%, because there was a risk, and I think that the fearless leader of the financial institution said that if we give all the money to PERS, they could, throw it on the table and roll the dice and have a bad, couple years, and then we would lose more money. And so we wanted to kind of limit the risk, but also gain the advantage of any potential increases in the market where we could actually garner better benefits. And so as a council member, I looked at it, and as a business owner, I looked at it, and I hate 7.5%, and if I can cut into that, and I can save the city $12,000 a year, I was very much in favor of going for the 50% basis rather than the 25%. And certainly I was not the least bit interested in making a 1.8% to go through all this trouble for just paying off the side fund. Having said that, there's, I guess, two other options. I'm kind of trying to micro-encapsulate what I went through in these two visits. The other thing was, do we go in and wait for this process to occur and then take the new, the new appreciated interest rate that might be higher, or do we get this going right away and get the process started, sign up for, and there's some backflips and stuff that we need to do where we can get it signed in like June, I think, and then in September when the rates are higher, we'll already be taken care of because we have to go and sue ourselves or some stuff like that. But that was the other option. Do we do it right away and just take the interest rate as it increases over the next 3 or 4 months, or do we get in, get it done, take it, get the interest rate locked in now and do that? And that was the other thing that Councilmember Spillman and I discussed. And for me, I thought that we should get it started right away. Now, this is just my quick perspective of having sat through this for a couple, 2 or 3 hours. But as a business person, I like the fact that we're saving $300,000. We can lock the interest rate in lower. I feel that it might go up a little bit. I did ask that the financial people explain to us what would be the difference if it went up in those 3 months, like 0.25% or 0.5%. How much would that mean to us? Or if we should even be concerned about getting it done early, or maybe just wait for the process and not have to sue ourselves. So sorry for being so long.
It's a kind of a complicated thing, and the analogy of backflips is probably a good one. We're going to be pretty competent gymnasts when we're done here. A lot of backflipping to do. What we have to do is we have to have a court validate that the obligation we have to PERS is a necessity of debt, especially for the general fund, which will be contributing to these future payments. The general fund can't go into debt without board approval. So the court has to rule essentially that this is already an established debt, you're just refinancing, structurally they call it. So that's the first process. And during that period, which we estimate would take 3 to 4 months for the court to hear it and do whatever they do, interest rates could change. So the two options that Council Bartlett is referring to involve, if we elect to choose A, B, or C, 1, 2, or 3, how do we proceed? Do we begin the validation action and just wait, or do we begin the validation and while doing that, enter into an obligation, most likely a private placement, it's basically going to be a bank loan, and get the interest rate locked. And the trick is there that we have to collateralize that debt. We have to have something to back it up. So putting together as much assets as we can on the city's balance sheet as collateral for that loan while we wait for the validation action to conclude may give us benefit in that interest rates change. We're locked in. And there is some concern that interest rates could change. So we asked Mike Meyer, who's with NHA Advisors, our financial advisor, what might happen if the Fed decides to raise rates, the bond market moves, interest rates go up even half a point, or in this case 50 basis points. What might that mean? Not so much to our smoothing, but what might it mean to our savings? And it takes a pretty big chunk out of it. A 50% or a 0.5% increase in interest rates who knows what the design is going to do. We said, let's just kind of choose one, an assumption that's reasonable, and 50% of half the thing is a reasonable assumption. So we have that to consider. I'm trying to think what else we said. There's just so much going on here, and a lot of stuff that we have to do as well to, with the help of our advisor, really try to figure out this. But what we do know is that we have these obligations that we will have to pay. And what we do know is we have options and an opportunity for us right now to do it at a more cost-effective approach.
So Dan, so those are the figures that we asked for. So let's say that we decide to go ahead with Plan B, and we go with the blue chart, which is the maximum, the 50% payoff. If we waited instead of going, if we locked it in, we could lose up to 35% of our $300,000 savings by a 0.5% increase in interest.
Correct.
And see, that's what scared me, and that's why I thought that. And there was some risk that maybe if we tried to validate that there was maybe, council said that there was like a chance in a million that they might not validate it, but we feel very confident that that wouldn't happen. But if we're risking 35%, I felt very strongly that we need to go forward, and it is an obligation that we have, and I don't think the court in the right mind could possibly rule against this. But the loss of savings is so catastrophic that I felt that, in my opinion, that we needed to go with the maximum 50% here in option 3 and get it done quickly, because if we're going to do this at all, we paid $120,000 to make the wheels turn, we need to maximize our benefit. And doing it that way, we're going to garner the city this $12,000 over the next 25 years, which is not a lot of money, but it's a lot better than losing $80,000 or $116,000 due to a 50 basis points increase. So I looked at this over a long period of time, over the 2 different meetings, and I felt very comfortable that Dan has got a good handle on this, and the financial people we have. We had a 5-way or 6-way conversation with the council and Margaret, and I think that it really looked like the smartest thing to do to try and get the best savings and lower it, and most of all, get the smoothing. So that's my 2 cents.
Councilmember Turner? Where to begin?
It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. And I wish Councilmember Spillman was here, because he went through this and endured this thing. And for those of us that are not big financial people, he could have concurred on
This was one I actually had to print a few of these out so they could actually sit in front of me all at one time, because I'm like, whoa.
I can appreciate the budget smoothing. I'm concerned that it goes over such a long period of time, because I expect more economic downturns within that period. So I'm wondering if our smoothing, then we'll have to get another smoothing. I would hate to see that happen, but I don't know that we can predict that.
That's always a risk, and it is the unknown. All we can do is make the best decision with what we know now. All those generalities aside, yeah, we put more money into PERS. Let me backtrack a little bit, because I used to think of PERS and our contributions the wrong way. I used to think we have the side fund, we pay the side fund on. So it's like extra payments on your mortgage, right? Eventually you're going to pay it off. It's not the case with PERS. You're giving them more money to invest, relieving you of change that were made and the obligations that were incurred from those changes in the past. But in a bad year, or a couple bad years, you're at more of a stake now. You just gave them more money that they potentially could lose or not see the kind of returns that you were hoping for. To Councilmember Parlette's earlier comment, it goes the other way too. So if they have great years above what they expected or better than the average years, we can realize that benefit as well. But yes, we have that. We're more exposed to the risk. We talked to our financial advisors about that, and I think we all agreed that the risk is nominal. Certainly, we're going to have another recession. Will it be significant enough where PERS feels the need to change their rate of return that they charge for what we have here in obligations and for ongoing costs? I don't know, anything can happen. But what we know right now is that this makes the most sense. If we didn't try to address it now and try to take advantage of rates where they are and the ability to have a better grasp that it just makes things more difficult. It will make things more difficult, at least for the next 5 to 7 years. But,
I
yeah.
see it as a reasonable response to something that was put on us.
Put on us.
From the state.
We had no choice about it.
Right.
It's not unique to us. Every agency across the state is facing this dilemma in one way or another. I think it's the smaller ones like us that have maybe a bit of a harder time because our resources are so limited, what we can do. So we're not being creative here with this proposal. We're just trying to be reasonable and proactive as we can.
So there's really 2 choices. One is which of the 3 or not do anything we want to choose, and then which track do we want to go on the validation? We can talk a little bit more about that, I'm sure.
Well, I was wondering about other cities, and if we're headed for this crisis, are other larger cities headed for even, tougher increase? And if the whole state is looking at something like that, are we going to go through this process, but then see PERS or the state do something to shift this around? So then we've wasted our money doing it, because if they don't do it, then some of these cities are going to go under. It could be pretty devastating to a lot of cities, and if they're unable to qualify for some of these, and they start going, couldn't you see the state or PERS doing something, and then we've wasted our time and money?
I don't see the state doing something as drastic as increasing our UAAL beyond what we see here, to the point where what we're trying to do here is just completely wasted.
But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We're trying to fix it, make it easier, but then we've been trying to take care of ourselves and make it good, but we've wasted $120,000, smoothing things out. And when in 6 months or a year we hear, oh, they're doing it for everyone.
Right. Well, we know that they won't do that.
Yeah, that's
that one. As much as they're trying to look out for the participating agencies as far as the effect this has on them, a lot of what they do, in my opinion, is not to help us out. It's to make sure that they remain solvent and pay the checks out to the pensioners, and that they don't have any difficulties doing so. So our financial advisor might be able to speak to how other cities are doing, because they have clients elsewhere, and I believe they're working with a few right now on similar issues like this. He may also comment on past issues that they're aware of as far as issuance of pension obligation bonds. It's kind of a common occurrence.
Or say, like in 3 years, cities start raising their hand. Guess what, PERS? Sorry, we're out of money. We can't pay you. Well,
That's happened already.
It's happening.
then what's their response? What do they do?
They're pretty much
Well, it's constitutionally guaranteed, so it's a huge battle.
They haven't been able to get out of the PERS obligation yet.
One of the things that I saw throughout this thing, and I don't know how many of us have our own IRAs and things like that, but you get your quarterly or annual statements and you look at it and you say, how did we do? But the difference between PERS is that we have a hard number that is already assigned to a given year, regardless of the return at the bank. And we are obligated to pay, whether it's $2,950, to this person, and $3,800 on this one. We may not get anything. I mean, we've had crashes in our IRAs and our investments, but PERS does not do that, if I understand correctly. They have a hard number, and we need to do whatever we need to do to make that number come true, and we need to give them enough money to make that come true. And that's a luxury that we don't have as private investors, but since we're involved in the public, employee retirement system, that's why we're having these huge costs. And so that's what's really scary about it. It's for them to come in and say, oh, we're just going to fix this for all you cities that are going bankrupt. I don't see that ever happening. It's like, you need to figure it out because you're in charge of their money and you're part of the program. You need to get your act together. And this is how we're helping you do it, but with the side fund and whatever else. But I think what we're trying to do is something very proactive, and I don't see that we would lose anything if some miracle happened and the state says, oh, we're going to fix this. I don't see that happening. The state hasn't fixed much.
Worst case scenario is we give them money, we take out a pension obligation policy, give it to PERS, we're paying debt over here for that, and then they have a huge collapse, and we lose principal. That's probably the biggest risk. Them modifying plans that kind of devalue and make what we're trying to do here a waste. I don't see that so much, but there is that risk that, because we're giving them all this money, that something bad could happen and we lose some of it.
Do you think the pension obligation bonds, when they're being financed, that, stated a 9-year average life, do you think that with multiple cities and jurisdictions maybe looking at this, that could increase to a 10-year or even a longer period, or you think it's going to be consistently under 10 years?
I would ask Mike Myers.
Maybe you could, Mike,
that one.
yeah.
We looked at longer, but the interest rate went out, because it really went out longer for a longer term, but.
I was thinking, I got 4.69, and they can get 5.1 or something.
Yeah, good evening.
I wrote down actually a few notes. There's a few questions I was going to address before that one. To your question about, new unfunded liabilities in the future based on, returns by CalPERS, that's going to happen no matter what. So whether you continue paying the payment schedule that you're on right now, or you take that and do a lump sum kind of payoff, there's going to be gains above the 7.5% kind of assumption that CalPERS has, or losses below that. And the way that factors in is in a way that is not going to affect the smoothing. And so let's say CalPERS goes and loses a lot of money, and there's a new $500,000 unfunded liability. That's going to be phased in, and so for the first 5 years, your payments will kind of go like this, and then it's going to flatline for about 30 years. And so that's going to happen every year from here on out. So they're going to look at where you are in your portfolio relative to where you should be, and based on their earnings, and assign you every year moving forward. I think we had up there's 4 bases right now. There's 4 components of your total unfunded liability. Next year there's going to be a base 5, and then next year there's a base 6, and it could be a positive for you, or it could be a negative. So if they do well, there's going to be a reduction in that overall unfunded liability. In terms of other cities, all cities are across the state, whether the size, are dealing with increased unfunded liabilities. This situation is a little unique in why we're recommending this idea here, and actually a lot of other places that are kind of on board with this budget smoothing. And it stems from the fact that these, because you are a risk pool member, that side fund was set up in 2003. And so when they added these new bases, they didn't really change the amortization period of that old side fund. So you have this, component of your overall debt that's like 25% in size, but it's amortized over such a short period of time, which is why you get that big peak in the beginning. And then they overlay these new unfunded liabilities that are, the new ones that they just did this past November, and they do it over 20 to 30 years. The bigger cities have always, they never had this short side fund. So when you look at their payments, they're just big. And there are cities out there that will do POBs, but that's a little bit speculative. They're kind of betting that the CalPERS will go earn more than they're paying on their bond rate. And there's been over 100 POBs done. They all go through this validation process very smoothly. But most of those were actually done, by cities who were, trying to get savings. And we really don't know until CalPERS goes out and there's earnings on the money, and you look back and whether it was a good deal or not. When I first looked at this and started talking, this came out, all the new reform came out in November. We kind of started backing into the payment schedules and seeing these very oddly shaped schedules. And it's mainly for smaller cities that have side funds in the kind of 4-year to 10-year maturity range. And we actually our firm put out a newsletter about a month ago on this change and how it's affecting these smaller cities with this near-term peak. And so, I think conceptually when we look at those options, our idea with presenting the options was how much do we need to restructure? We don't want to overdo it. What's the minimum we need to do to be able to kind of take out those peaks? And as we remove, part of those peaks, then we get to kind of fill in the gaps with this new debt. and at a, a lower rate than CalPERS is charging you, which could provide cost savings, but, for the primary benefit that we saw was the budget splitting. And the ability to do that for 15, 20, 22 years, I think, in one of the options. And so the other constraint is obviously on the investor side, and talking to the banks, the investors who would actually loan you money to do this. Once we get beyond that kind of 9-10 year average life, and so when I say that, this bond, whether you go with 1, 2, or 3, I think the final maturity is out in 20 years. But when you look at kind of where all those payments are and it amortizes, there's kind of an average to that, and that's what banks look at. And so they want something in that kind of 9-10 year range. They have a big appetite for that. They will provide an aggressive rate, which is the kind of the 4.5 range, 4.7 we've been looking at. Once we go beyond that, they're not that interested. It's too much risk for them to take for a longer period of time. And so that's why you kind of see some of those lines and they're falling off at the end, just because we can't put the debt back in. I think those are what I wanted to address.
Any other questions for Mike? Yeah, he actually answered to mine directly, so.
Let's see, the process of doing it quick or slow. The quick is assuming the court's going to approve it and that we really think rates are going to go up. What?
I wish I knew where rates were going to go. I mean, on the flip side, rates could go down. I think from what we've been seeing in the market, there's been a trend upwards. So I'd say in the last 6 months, there's probably been a 35 basis point increase in municipal yields for 10-year debt. I mean, historically, we're still very low. We were at historic lows, though. And from the chatter we hear, out of the Fed, I would feel comfortable saying it's more likely than not to go up than down. But I don't have a crystal ball. In terms of the validation, as I was saying earlier, we've done several of these. There's been, over 100, 150 done nationwide. I have not heard of a validation not succeeding. Cameron actually has done this, Cameron, who's legal counsel on this transaction, came up with the idea in order to lock in rates now to do this kind of asset transfer. And, we like the idea. I think the big thing is, does the city have enough assets to pledge as collateral to cover the size of the bond transaction? So, if you look at options 1 through 3, they differ in size from $2 million to $3.8 million, which means that the amount of assets you'd have to put up as collateral for those 3 months would have to equal that amount.
And if we put up the collateral and locked the rate and didn't get approval?
That's a good legal question. I believe that the transaction would stay the same type of structure, which means you have a collateral, you have pledged assets to the transaction, securing it. The bank agreed to that. You still have the bonds out there, but those assets would be encumbered. So you wouldn't be able to go out in 5 or 10 years and do a COP financing and pledge those same assets to the deal. They'd already be encumbered. I definitely think some of the questions from the legal standpoint we could probably talk to Cameron about.
To me, that's a gigantic, massive risk.
Well, it wouldn't be, I would say that the assets would be pledged without the cash. So I'm not aware of any instances where the cities have pledged assets for a debt issue, especially out of the general fund. We use debt to buy assets, and those assets are going to be pledged. But that's kind of what the challenge is, because I don't know. Looking at the face of my balance sheet, I don't know if I can put together enough PP&E to collateralize. But talking with bond counsel, thinks it's kind of a loose structure that we can apply to it. And again, it's not that if we were just to not get the validation that suddenly those assets are at risk, we're still paying on the debt. We're going to pay on the debt whether we do the POP or to PERS. It's just that's the security mechanism for the transaction. And we wouldn't really even contemplate it if we didn't have reasonable assurance, strong reasonable assurance that validation actually will be successful. No one's aware of it, and it's where it was not. So really the only reason we want to pursue that path, or we recommend it, is just to try and capitalize on more interest rates right now and not take the risk that they might go up and pull away at some of the savings that we're hoping.
David gave some insight on the validation.
Yeah, I mean, a validation action, what it is it's like you essentially put notice out there and you say, if anybody has a problem with this transaction, then come join this lawsuit as an interested party. And if you get it, set like 90 days or something, and if nobody does it, then generally the courts just rubber stamp it and say this transaction was fine. And then those bonds, those agreements are protected from future court challenge. If someone later were to try to challenge the offering, you just show them validation judgment, and then the court would keep them out. So it would be so if a validation action was unsuccessful, then that would mean, I believe, that those debt obligations would be still subject, they'd be open to challenge, and someone could potentially try to undo that transaction, and that would make it, for the placement agent, very, very difficult to get those, to sell that debt. But I'm not bond counsel, so I don't have a lot of experience with this.
And this isn't, we're not asking for final approval on the deal. We're asking for authorization to move forward. The final deal will be brought to council. Bond counsel will be here to explain the details of the deal, as well as our financial advisors, to do a final vetting to see what the pencils out. But it's an option we would probably recommend as a primary, and if we didn't feel comfortable with it, the council's understanding, we would move away from that and just go with straight validation and not worry about pledged assets. But I think it's worth taking a look at.
Yeah, something maybe we can.
Well, the thing that I was looking at was the fact that if you have it go for 3 months, that's why I asked the question to put this graphic up there, because I said, why should we risk our assets, whether they're in the ground or wherever they are, why should we encumber them in any way if we can just wait? But what might it cost us? And you said something about it going down, the chatter is it might go up, and so these are the kind of numbers that we're looking at. If it went up 50 basis points or whatever, that's a very substantial amount of money. But it may not, that's why I wanted that information, so that the council could chew on it, because it's like, okay, well, maybe we should do it, lock it in, maybe we shouldn't. I mean, we see this with mortgage rates all the time. Someone doesn't do it, next thing you know, they lost a point, and it's tens of thousands of dollars on a house. So that's why I brought that up, because I think it's important to keep that in the forefront, because no one has ever had a validation that you know of that's ever failed, and it might secure it, but then if it goes down, so I just think it
And Dan, correct, I mean, if we decide to move forward with this tonight, we'll obviously bring it back for a final, but we are authorizing $90,000 this evening. If we decide.
You're authorizing at least 25 to bond counsel, because bond counsel is doing it half on contingent and half of straight fee.
But up to 55.
Up to 55. That would be the total compensation to bond counsel. Total cost is $120,000 to do the deal, and those costs are baked into the cost savings that we're projecting at the value lines. So the transaction cost is certainly up there, but it's compared to other deals that we've done or that I'm aware of, it's not.
So that 120 includes the $90,000 in the suggested motion.
Yes.
Yeah, it would all be paid out of the financing.
Well, I should say, I do think it's important we figure out a way to smooth it out. I'm not totally sure, which option is the best way to proceed, but I think it is important to get the bond council and keep moving forward.
Let's check the public real quick. Anyone from the public have any comments? See, the crowd's going to go smaller. All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to council.
Well, and I was going to say too, that cost savings are great, but the main goal is to smooth it out, right? So, I mean, that's why I keep coming back to this, when we lock a rate thing, I'm not convinced we do it instantly, but, yeah, I'd hate to lose the rate to go up. So,
And I too agree that trying to budget, through the next 25, 30 years with that type of a graph is,
Nightmare.
it'd be a nightmare, it'd be insanity. It wouldn't be fair to future council or any future staff, the city of Lakeport for that matter. But I definitely, I would like to hear from a bond council as well, just to make sure that the protections are there. I mean, obviously there's no guarantee, it sounds like, but, as council, we've made decisions before where there's some apparent risk, and if we can just make sure that that risk is leveraged in such a way that, we're protecting the city, the taxpayers. then,
Would it be in the best interest of the group here to decide whether or not we wanted to go with the 1.9 to 25% of the 50% and just decide whether we wanted to wait or whether we wanted to validate? I mean, do we feel comfortable that we want to go with, one of the three smoothing options and then figure out what is it, the plan or the strategy that we want to use?
I personally, I like the option 3 as far as the payoff side.
what were you going to say?
I want to say just one thing about the documentation. I think that's kind of part of the reason we came a couple weeks before the final approval is that the nature of those documents and the way they are put together by Cameron is going to be a little different, whether we do the kind of the asset pledge. And that's, I think, something we'll have to talk to him about, whether we bring, do 2 sets and bring those back to the next meeting. But I think that aspect has to be decided at the start validation in terms of that structure. Once the documents are approved, that kind of timing option, whether you do the asset pledge or not, has to be determined.
Are you saying
Because-
tonight? We need
No,
to
no,
decide
no,
that?
in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks?
Yeah.
So we can review that next time?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
But at this
Same
point,
thing with
we
the
want to
amount?
fix that one of the 3 options. Is that what you're-
The 3 options, I almost feel that's, I feel free if you feel strongly, but I think the way it will work with the documentation is that there's going to be kind of a maximum amount authorized in the validation. I think the key thing is you don't want to say, we only want to do 2 million, because then you'd have to redo the validation process. But if you're thinking 2 or 3, maybe you leave it open and you say, we'd like to approve a maximum of 3.5 or 4 million, and then continue to discuss what the right amount is that fits within the budget.
So moving right along with right direction at that point.
Yeah.
Consensus on that one?
Yeah,
So,
I feel that when we discussed it in our, Councilmember Spillman was concerned about the collateral thing, the same as Pro Tem over here, and he was worried about that, and then the fact that had it ever been, had it ever been denied, and he was kind of a little bit worried about that, but he also said that he liked the third one better, but he was just worried about the amount of collateral that was necessary if we went with Plan B, and so, yeah, I think that we're on.
I like setting the maximum idea, because then that still gives us
Yeah,
time.
well, that gives
to
us the
discuss
maximum savings,
and
and
vet.
who knows?
But we don't
Maybe-
even need to do that tonight, right? Right. Yeah, so,
So we would just start validation until the next meeting.
Well, the validation would have to be started when the documents are approved the next day, so it would be the day after the next meeting.
And that gives us time to.
And he's talking about bringing back documents that have the maximum amount. Then you can always change your mind to do less, but if he brings documents with a lower amount, then you can't maximize it, so.
With our suggested motion tonight, we would be approving if council so chooses to keep the ball rolling, move forward.
and we keep all the options on the table. Okay.
All right. Anything else, staff and council? Seeing none, there is a very, very short suggested motion available.
There is, where is that one?
Has your name all over it.
Fastest read
See
of the
that?
West.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve and authorize the city manager and finance director to work with the financing team as necessary to bring the matter back to council for final approval of a final restructuring plan as well as all related contract documents. Authorize the city manager to sign all related documents, including a professional service agreement with Weiss Law Firm for bond counsel services not to exceed $55,000, an amendment to the professional service agreement with NHA Advisors for financial advisory services related to the restructuring to include an additional $20,000 and a professional service agreement with Southwest Securities Incorporated for placement agent services not to exceed $15,000 and adopt a proposed resolution.
Excellent. A very quickly read long motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything further from council? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Mike, very much for being with us this evening, too. It's good information.
Thank you, Council.
Definitely a difficult one.
Not a very good one.
It was difficult reading through it.
No,
I'm glad I
it's reading
took the other
It's painful.
Yeah, unfortunately, things that get handed to us that are beyond our control, but yet, as Dan was saying, constitutional requirements involved. No matter what, we have to deal with it. City council communications. Councilmember Parlett?
Nothing to add other than the finance committee meeting, which I thoroughly enjoyed both times.
Well, I'm glad and happy that you were there in Councilmember Spillman because, you definitely received some information that was beyond even just the reading, the documentation. So,
And your summary was helpful.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Councilmember Turner? Pro Tem?
APC last week, just wanted to mention that it's a constant subject of conversation of road tax. They're not talking yet about trying to coordinate everybody to go out for a tax, but I'm just mentioning that it keeps coming up and we may hear about that. Let's see, we met regarding the Christmas celebration. We're coming up with some new ideas and rolling those around. Steve, we might try something new, so we'll be bringing some of that. Last vote tomorrow.
Yes, and for myself, along with Pro Tem Tina, I was at the APC. We also had discussed some unmet transit needs, and one that doesn't actually qualify specifically for unmet as legal terms, but definitely for something that we're looking for, is a bus stop at Kmart with an enclosure. So, and that will be most likely facilitated much easier now that we own the property. And, we can help Lake Transit Authority get a shelter.
They had it planned.
Yes, it will be a budgeted item, so that's nice to know. I know there's been a lot of chatter, local radio and some social media regarding that spot, so now we have something in place where it's going to move forward and be able to correct it. I will not be attending LAFCO tomorrow. I will be in Sacramento testifying for the Senate and the Assembly committees for the governor's new redevelopment agency proposals, which we hope neither one of those governing bodies passes. So we shall see. There's a league division meeting in Ferndale on Friday. I will be unable to attend that, but I know that some city staff is going to vote for that. And that's about it for me, other than it's Memorial Day weekend. There'll be a parade, lots of fun things going on. Chief will talk. Chief's going to talk some more about that, so I'll let him handle that one. Anything else from council?
Do you want me to get over here and announce that I went to the fire meeting?
No, thank you.
Mr. Ingram.
Nothing bad tonight.
Chief?
Yeah, I had asked the mayor earlier if council was going to be in the parade. I hadn't heard anything, but if you weren't or didn't have a plan, I was just going to throw it out if any of you wanted to be involved with the police department. We'll be leading the parade. I've got a couple of girls that will be walking with us and handing out candy. So, if a council member wants to ride with us or walk along, or do something like that, we can do that. Or if you have any other ideas. If you're not going to be doing a separate, car with council or whatever.
I don't think we did it. I don't think it was going to be in the cards to make that happen, so.
Yeah, I think last couple of years, or years before that, was Tom Easterman applied a convertible and they did it, but
Last year I wasn't, no. I'm gone every Memorial Day weekend for a family.
Yeah, we've been doing it for quite a few years, but I think it'd be good to join you guys.
Yeah, if you'd like to, or whoever wants to, we can talk about it.
Okay, I'll talk to you about that.
If walk along or,
Yeah.
figure something out.
That sounds fun.
We'll be meeting around, setting up around 10 a.m. So give me a call.
Okay.
I will say, Chief, congratulations. By the time we have our next meeting, you'll have another high school graduate.
Oh, thank you. I had a college graduate last week.
Yeah, congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
Ms. Buendia?
No report.
Dan, anything for
Just we're in the throes of budget, so I apologize. Next meeting will be kind of a finance-heavy meeting.
slides?
But, yeah. This is light. This is light reading for your enjoyment. But thank you to the council members, Spillman and Parlett. They absorbed this rather arcane information really quickly and asked some really good questions. And look forward to bringing it back in 2 weeks to talk about more.
Ms. Brandon?
Just a reminder for those in the audience, that this Thursday we have the ribbon cutting for the docks. We're going to have Lake County Diamonds performing, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, it's Memorial Weekend, and Public Works staff has been busy getting ready to make sure the city is shining. And I'd like to thank the PD for working with Public Works staff and getting ready for the parade and everything. Really good collaborative team there.
I have to commend your staff. The park is looking really nice. It's looking really good. And for their work on installing the docks. So it's nothing but multiple compliments. People are really, especially some of the sailboats that have come up that are bringing their boats out to the mooring balls and actually had to pull up beside them to check them out because they thought they were just painted or resurfaced until they got up to them and they were like, whoa, wow, brand new. So yeah, that looks excellent.
Well, thanks to council for the expenditures and making it happen. It is truly a prize for the city and the community.
Mr. Rubin?
No report. Very much.
No report, I'm just going to invite everybody to the dock party, but.
Sorry.
It's LC Diamonds, too.
LC,
Don't let them hear you say Lake County Diamonds.
Oh,
yes, LC Diamonds. Oh, yeah, actually, well, Janelle, anything?
I don't have
Okay. Our Congressman Mike Thompson last week came to visit just for the pure asking questions if the city of Lakeport staff and elected officials had any items, and he was very open-minded, and his staff took down some lists, and would continue to receive good representation from our United States congressmen. So he kind of gave us the layout of what's the future, with the feds, and unfortunately, some things like transportation are going to slow down because of the election year. But, Margaret?
I was going to mention that there's $1 million in the governor's budget right now for the lake.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bill Dodd, Mike McGuire, Senator McGuire.
And then that's separate from Zimmerman Dodd's bill.
Oh, it is?
They're still trying to get the other 2.4 million. But
Okay.
there is
Wow,
$1 million right now in the governor's budget.
That's
So
incredible
if the
news.
budget passes as it is, that there would be at least $1 million.
Imagine that, finally.
Yeah.
We'll be,
Lake County being represented.
Yeah. So,
we'll be
both
looking for Bill Dodd this weekend at Chasewater.
Yeah.
We're double booked that day, and we'll be over at the Chasewater in the afternoon cooking for him. So I think he sent out an email that you can attend.
Well,
Sounds like it's going to be kind of cozy.
I already bought tickets, not realizing that it was this weekend is Labor Day weekend. So somebody's lucky is going to enjoy those tickets and not me. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out tonight. This meeting is adjourned. Have a very safe and fun Memorial Day weekend, other than obviously the memorial aspect of it.